Morning light spills across silk drapes as the city hums softly below. Unaware that this is the day everything begins to unravel, Evelyn Voss stands before a mirror, her reflection shimmering through the haze of perfume and nerves. The gown, ivory, hand-stitched, centuries in style, feels like armor she never asked for. Around her, bridesmaids bustle like petals in a storm, their laughter rehearsed, their joy brittle. Evelyn breathes once, steadying herself, listening to the ticking of a clock that sounds like fate counting down. In her chest, hope and dread wrestle for dominion. Outside, the Mercer estate gleams with wealth and arrogance, its gardens manicured to perfection, its air thick with the scent of roses and secrets. Today she is meant to become one of them, but somewhere deep inside, a quiet part of her whispers that she already doesn't belong. The ceremony garden shimmers beneath a pale noon sun, its glass pavilion arching like a cathedral built for spectacle, rather than sanctity. Guests chatter in tones of polished envy, their eyes scanning for social currency. Evelyn moves through the path of roses and marble, her gown sweeping the earth like a tide of silk. From across the aisle, Adrian Mercer smiles with the precision of a man who knows how to pose for admiration. Yet behind that smile lies a flicker of impatience, a secret rehearsed for weeks. Evelyn senses it but tells herself it's nerves, his or hers, she cannot tell. The officiant clears his throat, violins stir, and in the distance a thundercloud rolls where none was forecasted. The air thickens moments before the vows. A ripple of murmurs drifts through the audience like a contagion of disbelief. Someone's phone lights up. A notification. A whisper. Then another. Evelyn pauses mid-step, sensing something unnatural in the air. Adrian's smile falters. Margot Mercer, seated in the front row, stiffens, whispering to an attendant who scurries away. A faint wind flicks through Evelyn's veil, as though nature itself recoils from deceit. She stands beneath the arch of roses, heart racing, the officiant's voice fading into a hum. The weight of hundreds of eyes presses down on her, and she knows, though the words haven't yet been said, that the world she built is about to crumble. The moment breaks like glass. Adrian's best man whispers something to him, and the groom's expression changes, first confusion, then cold resolve. Margot rises from her seat, voice sharp as silver. She accuses Evelyn of betrayal before the congregation, her words cutting through the stunned silence. Evelyn's protests crumble under the force of spectacle. Guests murmuring, cameras rising, gasps feeding the fire. The officiant lowers his script. The violins fall silent. Evelyn's face, pale and disbelieving, becomes the image of ruin under sunlight fractured by glass. Adrian says nothing. He only turns his back, a gesture more final than any spoken vow. Rain falls before the ceremony ends as if the sky itself refuses complicity. Evelyn runs through the gardens, her gown darkened and heavy with water, mascara streaking like war paint. The laughter from inside the pavilion fades into memory. Alone beneath the arching oaks, she gasps for air, her sobs swallowed by thunder. The veil clings to her like a ghost that won't release its hold. In the distance, the Mercer mansion looms, beautiful, cold, unreachable. Evelyn tears the veil from her hair and lets it fly into the wind, watching it vanish into the storm. Somewhere between heartbreak and fury, something inside her hardens into purpose. The rain hides her tears, but not her transformation. Morning comes gray and bitter, a colorless echo of what should have been her honeymoon sunrise. Evelyn sits on the floor of her small apartment, the once pristine wedding gown heaped before her, like the carcass of a dream. The city's hum leaks through rain-streaked windows, indifferent, alive, and utterly detached from her ruin. Her phone vibrates endlessly with unanswered calls, news alerts, and pitying messages. Every headline carries her name. Every whisper, a scar she cannot yet wear with pride. She grips a pair of scissors and hesitates, her hands trembling with both rage and release. The first cut through the silk sounds like breath tearing from a chest. In that single motion, she becomes someone else, not the discarded bride, but the woman who will never be thrown away again. The city moves on faster than hearts can heal. Evelyn walks through the gallery where she once curated beauty for others, now stripped of her title and respect. Whispers follow her between halls of abstract canvases: the runaway bride, the betrayed socialite. Each step she takes is measured, controlled, as if every heel click must remind her she still exists. From the corner, Clara Wynne, her loyal friend, appears with a camera slung around her neck. She doesn't ask what happened. She only looks at Evelyn the way people look at broken art, not for its flaw, but for its truth. Night drapes itself over the skyline like a curtain concealing new intent. Evelyn sits in a quiet rooftop bar, her solitude as precise as the martini glass before her. That's when he appears. Dominic Lorne, the man whispered to be Adrian's fiercest rival. His presence carries gravity, the kind that shifts air and draws glances without demand. He knows who she is. She knows enough to beware. He doesn't offer pity, only understanding, and a simple truth: they underestimate you. The words fall like sparks on cold ash. For the first time since the fall, Evelyn feels heat again. Dominic doesn't speak in promises, only in clarity. Over coffee the next morning, he outlines what she already suspects. The Mercer family's influence extends far beyond gossip. They orchestrated her downfall to protect their empire. Evelyn listens in silence, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. His proposal is simple yet incendiary. Join him, expose them, reclaim her name. The idea feels dangerous, intoxicating. A rebellion disguised as redemption. When he slides a folder across the table containing proof of Adrian's deception, she doesn't flinch. She only asks, "Where do we begin?" Weeks pass like rehearsed silence before a storm. Evelyn, once exiled, now studies the Mercer Empire through Dominic's network. Photos, ledgers, and transactions become her new art. Corruption rendered in ink and shadow. When she finds the proof of Adrian's financial manipulation, something in her chest steadies. She feels neither guilt nor triumph, only purpose. Late at night, she sends the documents anonymously to a journalist. As she clicks send, thunder echoes over the city, as though the sky itself bears witness to her awakening. In the reflection of her screen, she no longer sees the bride, only the beginning of a reckoning. Night cloaks the city in a sheen of secrecy as Evelyn and Dominic meet again. This time not as victim and savior, but as equals about to alter the balance of power. In the quiet corner of his penthouse office, documents lie arranged like chess pieces, each representing a strike against the Mercer dynasty. Dominic explains his plan with calm precision, but Evelyn's focus drifts restraint, how he hides emotion behind strategy. She understands that same armor too well. When she signs the final page of their agreement, the pen trembles only slightly. "We don't destroy," she says softly. "We reveal." Dominic nods, admiring her resolve. Beneath fluorescent city lights, a silent alliance is born. Not forged by love, not yet, but by the shared pulse of justice disguised as vengeance. Evelyn spends nights in Dominic's private archive, decoding a labyrinth of ledgers, shell corporations, and bloodless betrayals. What once was a gallery of art now becomes a gallery of evidence. She memorizes patterns like brushstrokes, painting her revenge in patience and detail. Dominic watches her from afar. The way she frowns in concentration, the way her fury becomes grace. Their silence speaks louder than confession. Every discovery binds them tighter. And though neither admits it, both feel the gravity shifting from strategy to something dangerously human. It begins with laughter. Rare, unplanned, disarming. Evelyn and Dominic find themselves seated together after hours, sharing a drink over the absurdity of a world built on lies. What starts as conversation blooms into confessions. He tells her about his past rivalry with the Mercers, how they destroyed everything he built once before. She listens, the bitterness in her eyes turning to empathy for the first time. He sees her not as a symbol of vengeance, but as a woman who survived humiliation with elegance. The city outside flickers like a heartbeat, and for a suspended moment, time forgets what they came here to do. Morning arrives like a verdict. Evelyn stands before a boardroom filled with Dominic's legal team, presenting evidence she gathered. Proof of the Mercers' fraudulent acquisitions and hidden accounts. Her voice, once trembling with shame, now cuts clean through the air. Dominic watches her not as a partner, but as a commander taking her rightful throne. The documents go public by noon. Within hours, the Mercer family's stock plummets, and news anchors circled their downfall like crows, sensing victory. Evelyn doesn't smile. Triumph feels heavy, like the first breath after drowning. She knows this is only the beginning. That night, after the world has begun to crumble under their hands, Dominic finds Evelyn on the balcony, wind tugging gently at her hair. The city below glitters with consequence. He tells her she's changed everything, not just for him, but for herself. She doesn't turn to face him, only says, "I didn't come this far to destroy. I came to start again." Their eyes meet, the space between them electric yet restrained. He steps closer, his breath visible in the cool air. For a heartbeat, vengeance and desire are indistinguishable. The tension lingers, neither surrendering, both burning quietly in the glow of the skyline they now own together. Evelyn never expected control to taste this bittersweet. Weeks after the Mercers' first public scandal, she stands at the edge of a press gala, the cameras flashing in chaotic rhythm. For the first time since her wedding day, the world looks at her with fascination, not pity. She wears her composure like a crown, her words sharp, her presence magnetic. Across the room, Dominic watches her navigate reporters with quiet admiration. The woman he once helped rebuild now commands empires with poise and grace. When their eyes meet, a silent pulse passes between them, power recognizing its reflection. But behind her elegant smile, Evelyn feels the faint tremor of something unguarded. The more she rises, the more she risks her heart softening toward the man who made her strong enough to stand again. Later that night, the gala ends in silence, replaced by the hum of a car engine as they drive through rain-slick streets. Neither speaks, but the air hums with all they refuse to say. The city lights flicker through the window, painting her reflection beside his. Two ghosts bound by purpose and something dangerously tender. When Dominic finally breaks the silence, his voice is low, almost reverent. "They'll never forgive us for being stronger." Evelyn turns to him, a faint smile ghosting across her lips. "Then we give them something unforgettable to remember." The rain drums louder, and for the first time she doesn't look away. It happens not in passion, but in inevitability. After another long night of strategizing, Evelyn walks Dominic to the door of her apartment. The storm outside mirrors the tension within, both aware that once they cross this line, the mission changes. He hesitates, his composure faltering for the first time. She doesn't wait for him to decide. She leans forward, and their lips meet with the quiet desperation of two souls who've survived too much to pretend anymore. It is not tender. It's electric, volatile, a promise and a warning in one. When they part, Evelyn's voice trembles but doesn't break. Now, we're both in too deep. Morning arrives cruelly clear. Evelyn wakes to a world already turning. News feeds buzzing with rumors of her connection to Dominic, tabloids framing her as the manipulative muse of a rival tycoon. Adrian's voice fills every headline, painting her redemption as corruption. She reads each word without flinching, yet her reflection in the mirror betrays fatigue beneath perfection. Dominic enters quietly, setting down coffee. He offers no apology. Instead, he says, "They're afraid of you. That's why they lie." Evelyn nods, steadying her breath. Then let's make them fear the truth instead. The war ignites, fiercer and more personal than before. Evening descends like smoke. Evelyn and Dominic return to the rooftop where it all began. The same skyline now pulsing with chaos their actions have unleashed. Flames of sunset reflect off glass towers, empires burning from within. Dominic stands beside her, silent, as Evelyn takes in the view. "It's strange," she says quietly, "how power feels like peace only when it's ending." He looks at her, and for a rare instant, vulnerability crosses his face. "We can still choose what survives." The wind carries her hair across her face, and she turns toward him, the city glowing like an inferno below. Whatever comes next, they have already become the storm. By mid-autumn, the Mercer family stands on the edge of ruin. Stockholders flee, news anchors dissect their downfall, and Adrian's charm turns brittle beneath scrutiny. Evelyn watches from Dominic's office, the skyline glinting through floor-to-ceiling glass like a crown newly claimed. She should feel vindicated, but the victory tastes hollow, metallic. Dominic enters, silent as always, his presence grounding her. "It's over," he says. Evelyn's eyes remain fixed on the scrolling headlines. "No," she replies quietly, "it's only balanced. For every truth revealed, another lie waits to be born. And though she's conquered the name that broke her, she can't shake the shadow of who she had to become to do it. The world may have turned, but the past remains relentless." Late one night, Evelyn receives a call. Adrian's voice on the other end, raw and uncertain. He asks to meet, his tone hovering between anger and regret. Against her better judgment, she agrees. When she sees him again, she is struck not by love nor hatred, but by how small he seems now, stripped of arrogance, reduced to pleading humanity. "You wanted to destroy me," he says. She shakes her head slowly. "You destroyed yourself. I just turned on the light." The silence that follows feels like a final curtain closing. For the first time, she sees the ghost of who she once was, and lets it fade. After Adrian's confession, Evelyn returns home shaken, her walls trembling beneath invisible weight. Dominic finds her pacing the apartment, words unsaid heavy in the air. She admits that vengeance didn't free her. It only mirrored the chains she thought she'd broken. Dominic listens, expression unreadable, until he steps closer and whispers, "Then, let's build something clean." His voice is softer than she's ever heard it. She looks at him, unsure whether to thank him or fear the tenderness she feels. For the first time, her resolve fractures, not from defeat, but from the dangerous realization that she's beginning to love him. The Mercers refuse to fall silently. Margot Mercer, wounded yet cunning, releases falsified documents implying Evelyn's involvement in insider trading. Overnight, the headlines shift again, from victim to villain. Dominic's company faces sudden scrutiny, investors wavering. Evelyn watches it unfold with eerie calm, the eye of her own storm. She knows Margot's strategy. Drag her back into the dirt where the world first found her. But Evelyn is no longer the woman who breaks under shame. If she wants a war, she tells Dominic she'll have to burn herself to fight it. For the first time, Dominic sees in her not vengeance but master. Days later, Evelyn strikes back with precision, releasing proof that Margot's falsifications were funded through offshore accounts. The scandal reverses like an incoming tide, washing away the lies and leaving the Mercers exposed once more. Yet Evelyn feels no joy, only the quiet stillness that follows a long storm. Dominic watches her from across the room, admiration mingled with concern. "You've won again," he says. Evelyn turns, her voice calm but weary. Winning isn't the same as peace. The city outside begins to glow with dawn light, and for the first time she dares to imagine life beyond vengeance. A world where her story isn't defined by ruin. Winter falls over the city like a hush after chaos. The Mercers are disgraced, their empire dismantled and Evelyn's name restored. But victory, she finds, is quiet, too quiet. One night, Dominic invites her to his estate outside the city, where frost coats the windows and the air smells of cedar and smoke. He doesn't speak at first. Instead, he places before her a folded letter. No grand gesture, no spectacle. Inside, a single line: "You rebuilt your name. Now let me build a life with you." She looks up, startled, searching his face for irony. There is none. For a heartbeat, she remembers the girl in the mirror on her wedding day, trembling beneath silken shame. This time, her answer comes without fear. "Only if I walk with you, not behind." Dominic nods, smiling faintly. "That's the only way I know." News of their engagement spreads like wildfire. The media calls it poetic irony, the fallen bride returning to the altar with her former fiancé's rival. Evelyn ignores the noise. For her, it isn't about spectacle anymore, but closure. In her art gallery, rebuilt from the ruins of her old life, she prepares an exhibition titled Reclamation. The walls gleam with portraits of women in moments of defiance and serenity. Dominic watches her from the doorway, pride softening the edges of his usual restraint. "This isn't just your story," he says. She smiles faintly, brushing dust from a frame. "It's every woman who was told she couldn't start again." Outside, the reflection of cameras gathers, the world still watching, but she no longer minds. Weeks later, elegant envelopes sealed in silver wax begin to arrive across the city. The headlines buzz: "Evelyn Voss to marry Dominic Lorne." Invitations written in her own handwriting, minimalist, precise, bear no mention of revenge, only grace. Margot Mercer receives hers, too, her manicured hand trembling as she reads the name. For Evelyn, it isn't mockery, it's mercy. She chooses forgiveness not as surrender, but as sovereignty. As she seals the last envelope, she looks out at the skyline, whispering to herself, "They threw me out of one altar. I'll build my own." And somewhere in the distance, the church bells she once feared seem to ring for her again. The day of the wedding dawns, calm, golden, without the chaos of her past. The venue isn't a cathedral of glass, but an open terrace overlooking a frozen lake, where snow glimmers like forgiveness. Guests arrive hesitantly, unsure whether they're witnessing romance or revenge. Evelyn walks down the aisle alone at first, her gown simple, her expression serene. At the altar stands Dominic, not a rival, not a savior, but a partner. As she reaches him, he extends his hand without words. The world falls away. In the hush between them, she realizes this isn't vengeance fulfilled. It's peace reclaimed. The officiant's voice fades into the wind as Evelyn takes Dominic's hands. "I've lived in shadows made by others," she says, voice clear, unwavering. "But today, I stand in my own light." Her vow isn't just to him. It's to the woman who once walked this path in tears, to the girl who learned that survival can become grace. Dominic's response is simple. "You were never meant to follow anyone, only to walk beside." Applause ripples softly through the air. Snow begins to fall, gentle and unhurried, each flake a small absolution. When their lips meet, the sound of bells echoes across the frozen lake, not announcing an ending, but a rebirth. The reception glows with candlelight and laughter, a portrait of serenity that feels almost unreal. Music drifts through the air, slow and tender. Evelyn moves among her guests, her hand brushing Dominic's as they share quiet smiles. Yet amid the warmth, a familiar chill coils at the edge of the celebration. Margot Mercer arrives uninvited, veiled in black, her presence drawing silence like a knife through silk. Evelyn turns, their eyes meeting across the room. For a long moment, the world seems to hold its breath. Margot lifts her glass, a gesture halfway between respect and defiance. Evelyn returns it, steady and calm. The reckoning has come, but this time, it will not end in ruin. Later that night, Evelyn finds Margot alone on the terrace, the winter air sharp enough to carve truth into breath. Margot's voice trembles with restrained fury. "You've taken everything from us." Evelyn's reply is quiet, almost kind. "I only took back what was mine." For a moment, they stand as mirror images, two women forged by pride, each refusing to bow. Then Margot's expression falters. "He loved you in his way," she says. Evelyn's gaze softens, but her tone remains steady. "And I loved him enough to stop becoming what you made him." When Margot turns away, the cold breaks, not in cruelty, but in release. The war ends not with victory, but with forgiveness unspoken. Inside, the music fades, replaced by the faint crackle of the fire. Evelyn steps away from the crowd, needing a moment to breathe. She finds Dominic near the window, gazing at the snow as though memorizing its silence. He turns when she approaches, his expression soft, unguarded. "Do you regret any of it?" she asks. He shakes his head. "Regret belongs to those who never dared." She smiles. A small, tired smile that holds peace instead of triumph. They stand together in silence, watching flakes fall against the glass. And for the first time since everything began, Evelyn feels no weight, no fear, only stillness. The morning after the wedding, sunlight filters through gauzy curtains. Evelyn sits at her vanity, a blank page before her. She begins to write, not to Dominic nor to the Mercers, but to the woman she once was. "You will lose everything they told you made you whole. You will break, and in breaking, you will become something far more honest. One day you'll walk down another aisle. Not toward redemption, but toward peace." She seals the letter and places it in a small box labeled simply, "Before." When she looks in the mirror, she no longer sees the girl waiting to be chosen. She sees the woman who chose herself. Months later, spring returns. The city alive again, blooming in color. Evelyn walks through the same garden where she once fled in tears, now transformed into an art installation. Children run along paths lined with her sculptures, each piece forged from remnants of her past. Fragments of glass, fabric, and steel reborn as beauty. Dominic waits at the garden's edge, smiling as she approaches. "You turned your pain into art," he says. She looks around, the wind lifting her hair, sunlight painting her face in gold. "No," she answers softly. "I turned it into life." As she takes his hand, the camera pulls wide, two figures walking forward through a world remade by resilience. The story doesn't end with vengeance or victory, but with peace, walking hand in hand with possibility.